Hello and welcome to part 2 of this Selmer Treble and Bass Mark 3. So if you remember, we did a bit of an assessment video of this, and this obviously this amp needs a recap, and we'd got all of this that had been added. These have just been glued on here. We've got the diodes floating about on the transformer, a few other bits and bobs. So I've had a bit of a think about this bias set out, this circuit here, and I've decided I'm going to put this back to original. I'm going to get all of this off, put it back to original. We've got a new set of matched tubes to go in this amp, so there's no reason to have all of this, and we'll just bias it with what resistors we've got in the circuit by changing them should we need to. So we've got a couple of caps here to change, can caps, another one there. This is on the bias, it's 50 microfarads at 150. This we've got to address here. That's not safe. The power switch is loose. Look at the ground on there, but there's a tag there. So I'm going to clean that tag up and solder the ground to there. It's got to be better than that. Make sure the coupling caps aren't leaking. Don't think they are. We did have a bit of a look last time, but we'll check again to make sure. A bypass capacitor there to change. Bypass capacitor there as well needs changing. I do get the feeling this board is a bit loose as well. So we need to have a look at that. This side's pretty solid, but this side is a shade on the rickety side. I think we'll need a new plug on this reverb because this is just falling apart on this reverb cable, so we'll probably put a new plug on there. Make that good. Right, got the first capacitor out. That's 32 at 500 volts working. You see him there. The resistor on there is 27k, but that's gone up to about 32k, so we'll get a new one there. And let's have a look at this one here, and he's 32 as well. Makes you wonder if they were like that from the factory, doesn't it? 32. So we'll find a capacitor to go in there, and there we go. So he'll be going in there. Like so, or rather like so, because the ground is there. We'll need it to go that way. Right, so I'm just looking at this. I'm process of changing these two capacitors, and I've got that one in, it's not wired up, but this one can't get to the screw to loosen it to pull it out. And I was going to take the screws that mount it to the chassis, but then I looked at this wobbling around, and this is just riveted on. It's like a screen for the output tubes that they've put on there. You can see that's really loose, this one especially on here. So what I'm going to do is drill out those rivets, then I can get to that, the fixing the screw on this clamp fixing here, then I can get the cap out, put the new one in, and then what I'm going to do is bolt this back on so it's tight and not rattling around, because you don't want that rattling around when it's on top of the amp when you're swaging away. So we'll get that sorted. And then we've got another cap here to put in. You can see him just hiding there. Now the other thing is we've got a 32 and a 32 here. And this obviously is a 50 watt amp. And if we look on the schematic again, you can see we've got, let me just alter the, oh no, that's fine. So 32 is there, choke 32 is there, and then I say we're going up to that 32 there. But I'm going to put a 50 microfarad in here because this really should have a 50 microfarad in. 32 is a bit low. I'm not sure why we'd have 32 in an amp like this. So we're going to up that to 50 microfarad. Just a bit better smoothing for this amp. That will give us. So I'm not happy with this bias thing. As I said, I've taken out those pots which are here, just not reliable enough for me, and I'm going to bias this with resistors, and I've got quite a lot of odd type resistors, so I'm sure odd values, so I'm sure I can bias this up. We've got a set of match tubes to go in it, so we don't really need to be matching and messing about adding things on. So there has been some components removed. These will need to be replaced now because they'd been taken out and we'd had that bias mod connected to them. There's not enough wire to go in the hole, so they'll have to be removed. But they're probably out of spec anyway. Let's see if they are. So you can just see the meter here, so we'll test a few resistors. Well, that one says nil pois. Oh, testing there we go. Well, 225, so that's good enough, but I'm afraid it's not anymore because it's got no legs left on it. That one's 23, 230, sorry, not 23. Let's try the plate resistors on the phase inverter. On the money, look at that, 82.9. And on the other side, should be 100k. Well, you can't argue with that, can you? We've got, what's this resistor doing here? That's going, where is that going? Oh, that's going to the speakers there. But we'll test it anyway. That should be 100k. We're getting some funny readings from that because it's connected to the speaker socket, so we know it's connected to the transformer. Right, I am a fool. Why didn't I think of that? Bet you're all shouting at that on the screen, weren't you? Put the meter on the other side. So that looks like 68k. Sorry, 6.8k. And that's bang on. It's, well, 6.68, but 6.8k, so that's a little under, but that's okay. Got a 1 meg here. Most delightful. And then we've got, is that 820 ohms? Well, that's 808, so that'll be okay. He's a lumberjack and he's okay. 1 meg. Most delightful. Now we've got some 2.2k. These will probably be cathode, yes, the cathode resistors. That'll be the bypass cap that's, yep, I'll take that. Let's try the other one. Yep, 220 plate resistor here. He's a little over. 1 meg here. Most delightful. Can't get any more accurate than that, can you? 470. Look at that. Oh, it's not often you find resistors, carbon comps that are that accurate. That one is 680k. That one is 703. Then we've got 270, 27k. Well, I'll take that. And 220k. And we'll take that as well. My days, these are incredibly accurate. Plate resistor, look at that. How close can you get? That's unbelievable. 470k. Let's get through the flux. 466, we'll take that. DJ concept there, just driving by. I've got the door open. Yes, that is 300 ohms. and it is 300 ohms. We'll take that. Yes, we'll take him, and another 2.2. And he's a lumberjack. Plate resistor again. We'll test it out of curiosity. Yeah, we'll take that. It's pretty good. Next one, it's also 220. Can't argue with that. Couple of 2.2Ks here. Probably just have to wait for the... Oh, we'll take that. And the other one. Oh dear. Well, I say, what can you say now? There is a resistor hiding down here, and that is 180K, I think. It is bang on the money as well. My days. Have you ever opened an amp that's 50 odd years old and found so many accurate carbon comps? That is unbelievable. The only one we found that was a little out is that 680K there, and even that wasn't that far out. Did we test that one there? I don't think we did, you know. I've just spotted one there. That is that? That's 4.7K, isn't it? 4.7K. We've not done that one. And we have now, look at that, 4.48. It's a little under. So most of these have just been a little under. They've not been over. We need to test that cap across there as well. In fact, I might just change that anyway. It's 100 picofarad. It's the oscillator cap across the phase inverter there. So that's all looking good, isn't it? We've got some 68Ks on here we haven't tested on the input stage. We have got, and we've got some there as well. Let's have a look. Because that one's wired in parallel 34, so that's bang on. And that one, yeah, 34, 68. We've got a 1 meg grid leak here, but well, I won't get a reading off him without putting a lead in it, but I can't see it being a problem. All the rest of them are the same. So we've got 2 more down here. Little over that one. Is it 68K, that one? It is. And this one, that one's all over the place. Can't seem to get a reading off that. Yeah, 33. So that one's, they're okay. They're spot on. We've got this other capacitor in there now. These two are wired up and sorted. Use this 5K resistor again. We've put some trousers on his legs because there was potential for that to touch the chassis, and there was potential for that to get pushed onto the grid of this output tube here, which would have been catastrophic. So we've sorted him, removed the other one, which is just absolutely huge across the pushed onto there, and I've just put a 4.7 on there. Just try finding a 5K resistor. I don't need 10 watts on there. That thing is at least 10 watts. Right, I've got the power cable in, you can see, and I've used that was already there, that lug for the ground. That's all in and nice and tight, and I've just folded it over there to keep this wire away from that resistor. Remember, the power cable before was actually going across the top of those. And turn obviously the ground back this way, so if that ever does get pulled out, there's quite a long length before the ground gets pulled, so the ground will always get pulled last. Now the other problem on this is the switch, and the switch is loose, so we've got to nip that up, but it's not got the best of, in fact it hasn't got a nut on at all. But also, if we tighten it up too much, you can see the perspex has cracked on. We'll have a look in a bit, but the perspex has cracked, and I suspect that's cracked because somebody's tried to over tighten that at some point. So that's going to be a bit of a problem to get that tight, but not damage that front panel even more, that faceplate. Right, so that's all in and done. Right, so I've stripped out most of this, what's going on here in the bias. We've replaced the 100 picofarad cap with Vichy. I'm just looking at these, how long they've got the wire here. And you have to be careful with these eyelet boards because they've got no, they haven't got another layer underneath, and you can actually, if I put my finger there, you can see my glove showing through that hole. So if you push them down too far, you can create a short on the board, so we'll just shorten those. We don't really need them in that far. And you also have to be careful with these boards to check that if you're getting any solder drips, which the solder then sets, the drip sets and it's touching the chassis. And one of the ways to test that is with the meter. So I've obviously soldered this in there. These are live feed, so a dead short will be created with the HT voltage. So if we put the meter on there and we just check, and we've got 0.48 meg and climbing, so we put it on that one, so there's no short on there. We'd get a short straight away if that was touching the chassis. So we just need to keep checking as we go along, and that's why you really need a current limiter when you power these up, because you can't see what's going on under that board. So we'll get all this put back together now. So I've sucked, before we do, I'm just going to clean that off. We've sucked all the solder out of there as well. I'm just going to clean all this off so it's not going into the new solder. All this old flux that's 50 odd years old, coming up to 60 years old probably on this amp now. Nearly 60 years old, isn't it? I think it's a 66. Now I've found a 39k resistor and I've just tacked that in. Well, I'm going to tack that in because we're going to run this amp up and just see where we are with the bias window and what components we'll need to change, because all of this has been tinkered with. So that is 150k there laid across that 2.2 meg. That should be 180k, and in actual fact if we measure across there, 2.2 meg and 150k makes the grand sum of 140k. Now we've got the new grid leak resistors for the output tubes here. That's 220k, because the other ones were fine. They just, as I said before, the leads had just been snipped. I had another one somewhere. I don't know what I've done with that. There it is. I bet you were all shouting, it's there, it's there. It's in the chassis. Interesting, last night in the dashboard panel of YouTube, occasional videos come up from YouTube. There was one last night on profanity, something which I'm a bit of an expert on, but never on the channel. And as I've said before, the reason I don't swear on the channel and I don't allow swearing on the channel is because parents may be watching this with their children. And in fact I do have one one watcher of the channel, and I've already repaired a couple of amps for him, and I've got another one. Sorry, I just kicked the camera there. And I've got another one in as well that we're nibbling away at. And he watches these with his son, and his son is only 9 years old, something like that. Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that this carries on to the next generations. So we want dads to watch this with their sons, get them into the guitars and the amps, just like we did, and not let it fade away into the depths of the machine music and synthesizers, or whatever you want to call them. In fact, I don't think you use that now. It's all done on these computer programs. Modern music, am I right? Showing me age now, aren't I? But we want to keep this alive. So the fact that I don't allow swearing on the channel or in the comments, or politics as well, don't kind of think that I'm some kind of religious guy, because I'm not. Now this here is not going to fit in there, and they've just laid, obviously that's just had to be laid across the top, so not entirely happy with that. So not sure what to do with that. And that, you see what they've done here, because we've already got a ground on here. Got that ground there. I may just route that ground somewhere else, because if that was to come off, the tubes would say good night. So I might just cut that off and ground those somewhere that's a bit more secure. I'll have to have a think about that. So anyway, this video was going on about advertisers and profanity, and that apparently people were getting strikes if they were using profanity in the, or swearing, it's a bit of a posh word for me, swearing, I'll call it swearing, in the first 7 seconds of their video. But apparently now the advertisers are not going to do, well, YouTube's not going to do that. And the guy in the video did go through a list of swear words which could now be used in the first 7 seconds. It's bizarre. And now you won't get a strike for them. But if you use too much profanity, then there will be problems. You will get a strike. It's probably just easier not to use any, isn't it? But anyway, these videos come occasionally and I watch them. So, and again, usually if you put comments, if you put profanity in the comments, it usually disappears anyway. I did have one comment which I didn't allow on there, and someone was complimenting one of the videos, fair enough, but then he made some remark about the president of his country, and obviously that's politics, that's not allowed, and that's also profanity or swearing, and that's not allowed either, so that comment didn't get on there. So please, if you're leaving comments, don't put swearing in them. It's just, I don't want the kids reading it. It doesn't offend me, and nobody, I can assure you, nobody swears more than I do. I am no angel, but you've got to have ground rules where the kids are concerned, and I want the kids to watch the channel because I want this to go on, you know, generation after generation. Obviously you want parents watching the channel with the parents. You don't want to, you know, these videos are not listed as not made for kids, so they won't come up on a child's you know, on a it won't come up on a child's YouTube as long as it's properly monitored by the parents and it's set up properly. So if you're, well, in fact it's automatic. If you're under 18, these videos won't show up, but obviously with parental guidance it's pretty safe to watch them. Anyway, enough waffling. Just thought I'd mention that video. So we need to put him in there, and he's most delightful because he is a Vichy. In there, and then we need a new ground point for it because I'm not happy with that. Probably will never come off, but of course what is welcome in the comment is good humour. So don't see a lot of that, so we could do with seeing a bit more. Right, we'll finish this off. I'll need to find somewhere to ground it, so I shall return when I've had a think. Right, just grounded that onto here, which is grounded off that end anyway, so that didn't take much thinking out, did it? Just going to cut these now, or we won't have any bias when those touch the chassis. I could do with a bit more of those. There we go. So again, we're tacking that one in because we're not sure what the bias is going to be, and we'll just see what we get with that. Right, so we'll start soldering these up then, and that's all looking better, much tidier than it was before. Oh, I forgot to put the wire in. Duh. Both of them. Where's the other one? Four, that doesn't go in there. Ah dear. Fail. Luckily I've not soldered it, so it goes in there. It does. As we're talking about videos and swearing and things. There we go. pop some in there. I've got to put some in anyway, connect it up, but as I say, we'll come back and address that resistor if it's not the right value. If it is, we'll just snip his legs short and he will be a winner. Right. Almost wired it up wrong then, but obviously I would put the tubes in. We don't put the tubes in when we first fire it up. We make sure we've got bias voltage, and of course I'd have been missing bias voltage on one tube there, so I would have found it, but not sure that's taken to that eyelet there. Has now. Just make sure everything is in and nothing's going to come out, because if it does, it'll fry the tubes obviously. So we'll just tidy that up a bit when we've finished. It's from when that resistor was changed. So there we go, that's all looking good, much tidier. Got rid of all of that nasty hot glue and stuff that was gluing those pots down on there, and that looks more back to normal now, doesn't it? Keep those away from that screen resistor there, because obviously that'll get hot when it's being swaged at high volume. We don't want it melting those cables, do we? Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to connect these together temporarily while we're testing, and then I'm going to run this amp up, just see if we've got any bias, any negative volts. And if we have, then we'll get the tubes in. Just see, I'll put a set of test tubes in it first, just see what window we've got the bias in. And then we've got just these two bypass caps to change here. I do need to look at this board. Just only 2 bolts in it. Right, joined on here, and I'm leaving this for the time being because I've got to mount these diodes somewhere, and I've got to have a look for some tag strips or something to mount those on, because they can't be left floating like that. I've just tacked on there, and I've just put some shrink tubing on, because obviously that's dangerous to leave that. Even during testing, that would be silly to leave that exposed. Right, before I fire it up, I'm just going to get the vacuum cleaner in it and give it a bit of a hoover out. So we're going to power this up. Everything's plugged in. I've got a 15 watt bulb in there because we're not drawing any current. and even with that the voltage is coming up quite high. Let's see if we've got any bias voltage. Yes, we have 27 volts. 28, so we've got plenty of bias voltage there, so that's good. We've got 187 going into the amp, because again with no current there, right. So now we know that we've got bias voltage there. We are going to stick in a couple of test tubes, and obviously we're going to stick the preamp tubes in as well. Right, I've got all the tubes in, well, tubes in, a couple of my test tubes just for safety's sake. What's gone? Oh, I'm not plugged it in. There we go. So now we've got current on it, we're going to bring it up a little slower. So we've still got that 15 watt bulb in there, so that's giving us 74 volts on there, but we can obviously up that, and we'll up it now, up it to 55 watts, stick another 40 in, and you can see the plate volts is going up. Well, you can't because I've not put the camera on it, but you can. There we've got 294 and climbing. Now let's get our meter back on here and see if we've got the bias, and yes we have, negative 23, so that's looking pretty good. Yeah, so that matches there, that's okay. We've got about 140 volts going into it. Oh, and already we've got signal, even with that. We're away. There we go. So there we go, we're running, up and running with the new caps. So we'll just let those run for a bit. We'll just increase the bulb to 100 watts now. That's pushing some more plate voltage in. Look up there now, we're up to 317. So let's see what we've got on the bias now. Negative 27. Now the negative voltage, let's just turn that down. The negative voltage is by no means a method of checking the bias, but you usually get an idea as long as it's close. And we're more interested in this capacitor here because the previous one was way over at 150 volts. That one is 63 volts working, so I just want to make, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but I'm just want to make sure. Right, stick another 40 watts in, these caps up, and there we go. And up, the voltage is coming up even more now, 350. Let's see what the bias is now. Negative 30, so that's coming into a good window. Anything round about negative 35, 36, somewhere around there I think will be reasonable for these tubes. Obviously we'll check the bias because it could be a little over, but it certainly won't be a problem while we're idling. I don't think I've made a very good job of soldering that. I think I might just go over that again. It's solid enough, it just doesn't look very tidy. So we've got 351 on the plates. 295. A lot of voltage going down there on that, coming off that 5k. So that is that red wire running that single triode. It is. My word, that's getting some bepo then. That's already got 294 volts on it, so my word, that tube's getting some hammer. Bearing in mind we're still not up to full voltage, so now we've got 200 watts of bellobs in there. And if we look, the plate voltage is stomping up now. If we come down and check the bias again, see what we've got. Now we've got negative 32 with 210 volts going in, so that might just be a tad on the hot side. I don't know, might be okay, might be spot on actually, but we'll see. Right, I'm just going to take it off the current limiter now. It's been on the limiter for a while, and now we've got 440 volts on the plates. Let's check the bias. Negative 36, that's pretty close, I would think, but obviously we've got to test the bias, do the bias checked properly. .4 we've got going across there, so we just need to write down a few bits and bobs, and 438 for the plate volts. So I'm only going to measure one side. I only need to know it's in a window, and the plate volts are at 439. So we need to switch off, and we need to wait for those caps to drain. So I've just tested the transformer windings, the resistance, and we've got 60 ohms on the left tube and we've got 67 on the right, but we've only done the reading on the left tube because, as I say, we're only looking for a rough window to get this in, because obviously another set of tubes will be going in here and obviously they'll have to be biased. So let's see, so 2.5, divide that by 60, that's 25 milliamps. What's happened? This calculator is rubbish. Try that again. 2.5 divided by 60 equals, that's better, 41.6 milliamps times 439, 18.2, a little over then, just a little over there. That wasn't a bad guess though, putting those components in, and that's probably because that maybe that it was 180k before, but then again when we put the tubes in it might be spot on, the other tubes. So but yeah, that's where we are, 18.2 on that side. So no good doing the other side because the tubes don't match anyway, and we're only looking for a window to get this amp in, and we're more or less in that window. So now all we've got to do is we've got some odd value resistors, we can just alter it until we get it in exactly how we want it. And I am much more comfortable having amps biased with resistors than I am with pots, even though the pots obviously are a brilliant convenience. But anyway, and seeing as this amp was biased like that originally, we're not striving to keep this amp 100% original, but it would be nice to keep it as close as possible, and adding on mods and things on an amp of this caliber, it's probably not a good idea unless it's for safety purposes. And then you've just got to, as we have got to for these diodes, which is still a problem. So it is time for lunch. It is now 1:05, and I'm going off to have a spot of lunch. and then we're going to come back and we're going to just change these two caps, and then the big thing is what we're going to do with these diodes. We need to clean the pots, and we could do it cleaning off this gunge that's on there as well, or at least some of it if we can. Won't be easy to get it all off, but the trouble is to be careful because there's holes in the back of some of these pots, so start getting that off, it'll be going inside the pot. But yes, we could do with cleaning that off. It looks a bit grabby. It's actually the ones with the holes in the back are the ones that's got the most of it on. It's like corrosion. It's not pleasant. Right, off for lunch. Right, change those caps there. Given that board just a bit of a clean up. I've got the new tubes in, but we've not fired up yet. Clean those pots as well, so those all look nice and clean. So I'm going to plug in. We've got the current limiter on with the new tubes in. I'm monitoring the voltage drop across this side. So 1.8 this time, divided by 60. That gives us 30 milliamps times 436. So these tubes are only drawing 13 watts. So that's much less than that test tube that was in there. So we're really low there. And you can see the difference between tubes. And even if you put that EL34 that was drawing all that current, even if you put that in a cathode biased amp, it's going to draw a lot more current as it does in a fixed bias amp. So 13 watts we've got there. And now the other side, 2 volts then, that's divided by 67, and that gives us 29.8 milliamps, and if we times that by 436 we get 13 watts. They're really well matched tubes, 13.01, so they are perfectly matched, those tubes. That's excellent, but they are biased way too low. Right, so I have changed that resistor there to a 39k, sorry, a 36k from a 39k, and the bias is 17 watts and 17.2, and that will do me. So that's good, that's all sorted out. So we'll get that resistor soldered in, and that's done and dusted. The bias, clean the flux from around the soldering terminals, and we'll unplug now. So what's left to do on this amp then? The switch we've got to address, and obviously the mounting of the diodes, and then there's the reverb tank and everything, and one of the cables needs a new phono plug on it. So still a few jobs to do. I've just put it through the scope, it all looks good. Right, finally got this amp, all the wiring done at least. And if we just go over here, we just go in, we've got this board, and this is absolutely rock solid. It's got 4 bolts in it. I doubled up the 1N4007s I've put in for extra gumption. And I put some insulation down there. These two, they're not, there's a good gap there, but I just for my own peace of mind, so I've insulated that, and that won't come off. It's stuck on really well. Wired in the AC here now, straight in, coming out of there, through the fuse, out the fuse, straight into the main filter. What's happened to that? So yes, we've got the resistor down there, and we've got some remnants of the old resistor that was cut out. And I pulled that out, the diode and everything came with. I thought, blow it, we'll just have a new diode as well. I've just got to clean around that with the alcohol, but I thought we'll have a new diode, and why not? So all good. So it is, all the wiring now is finished except for that phono plug that's got to be changed on the reverb. Actually, you know, the plastics fallen off there. I might just insulate that instead. It seems a shame to disturb that. I might just insulate that. So we're ready to fire it up. So what I did here, I've used I cut a piece of turret board, and I've added some turrets in there. And these aren't as high up, so we've got this bit of a tilt on the diodes. But just go back, you can't see it all, can you? Me looking at that. So you can see that here now, and you can see that is just rock solid. It does not move at all, doesn't bend or anything, but I've still put the insulation in, just to be on the safe side there. And that was the best I could do, really. So we've got some space here, but the transformer and the caps, you can't get your finger between the two, because of course, although the transformer looks like it finishes here, it actually finishes there, because you've got the all the gubbins that I can't remember what they're called now, but yeah, those anyway. So there's no really, there was no room there, no room here, no real room there either. So that was the only place that we could put something, but we couldn't leave those floating about like that. It just wasn't safe. And I know that you could say, well, they've been there nearly 60 years, they might have been, but I can't leave that. It's just not safe. So that is much safer now. It's much stronger, and that'll be going nowhere. But I have put the insulation in as a precaution, just in case, but it was fine without it. Right, so ready to power this up now, and I'm just going to check, because I've worked on the bias here, I'm just going to check that we still have bias voltage before I put the output tubes in. Yeah, I think we have. Yeah, see there, negative 15, so we're good. We've got bias, we can put the tubes in now. Just keeping an eye, we need to make sure we've got some plate voltage as well, because of course we've done all that work, haven't we? We've got no shorts, so that's always good news. Let's have a look what we've got then. So we've got voltage coming out there, we're going to the tip of the fuse there, coming out the fuse, yes, going down to the caps there, yes, and let's just check. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. Still got the dummy load on there, so I think we'll just drop onto a speaker. Yep, let's try the other channel. Yep, good stuff. All looking good. Right, let's start upping the bulbs. Wow, they're hot. Right, ready to give this Selmer a demo. We've got it all back together. Let's start off in the bass channel. Nice clean tone, these amps are known for that, and you can get quite a lot of bass on this. Let's try the other channel. This channel is much brighter and a lot less bass. I actually prefer the other channel. In fact, if the reverb was on this first channel, this would be an absolute winner for me. Reverb works well. Reverb's insane on it. Sounds so far away. Reminds me of the Ying Tong song by the Goons. So there we are, that really has a gorgeous tone to it. Really nice amp, really nice looking amp as well. So that'll do it for this one. It's fully restored Selmer Treble and Bass Mark 3 Reverb from about 1966, I think. So thanks for watching, you all take care, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye for now.